This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Bryan Kohberger is telling prison staff he'll harm himself if they don't move him out of J Block. The language he's using and the demands attached to it have investigators questioning whether this is genuine distress or strategic manipulation. Psychotherapist Shavaun Scott is with us to help break down this angle of it. Shavaun Kohberger is reportedly threatening to harm himself, and this is interesting. The language being used, harm himself, not kill himself, harm himself, if guards don't transfer him to a different unit. He's been asking for this since he got there. The guards have been saying, hey, you know what? The other unit's probably going to be worse for you, so you better stay here. From a clinical perspective, what does that specific language tell you? The harm versus kill that's being used allegedly.
You can look at it a couple different ways. One is, the threaten to self-harm can be looked at as, well, I'm sort of telling you I might commit suicide, but I'm not coming out and making a firm commitment that way. So it's sort of the softening of that. The other thing that popped into my head when I heard the term is that it's kind of a clinical term, and he sees himself as a clinical guy, right? The PhD criminology student. And so if someone were writing a psych report, they might use the terminology, client has made no attempts to self-harm. So it's sort of, I think, trying to sound a bit intellectual too, rather than I'm going to go off myself. It's he's again kind of being an elitist in the way he communicates.
Obviously, they need to pay attention to it, but do you think there's really a threat that he'll do it? I mean, to me, it seems like he's a coward.
I don't know that coward would have anything to do with it. I think whenever a person is incarcerated, I think they have to really be looked at closely for clinical term threats of self-harm, or that they're going to hurt themselves or kill themselves in some way, because it's a terrible blow for anybody to be locked up, and a lot of people do get very suicidal. So it always has to be taken seriously, because there's absolutely no way to know in advance who's feigning or who's manipulating or who's just trying to get their own way, and who really may do it, or they may be trying to be manipulative and then get an impulse and actually do it. So I think it always has to be taken seriously. I'm sure it is being taken seriously, but on the other hand, that doesn't mean that you give in to their demands. It can't be used as a form of successful manipulation. It may mean, okay, we take away anything in your room that you could hurt yourself with, including your clothing, and now you're basically wearing a rubber hospital gown, and that's it. But it's always, they're going to be put on an increased watch, and there are all these suicide kind of intervention things that would happen. So anybody who makes that threat is going to be looked at.
Do you think he's in therapy?
I don't know at that institution if it's provided. I have no idea. Some institutions do provide a little bit. Sometimes, most often, that would just be a consultation with a psychiatrist and not ongoing kind of clinical talk therapy. Probably not.
This is the heartless responses. Why do we care?
Right.
Why do we care? Why can't we do the Mel Brooks thing and let them? If he's talking about self-harming, okay, you do what you feel you need to do. Do whatever, as long as you're not going to harm other people. There's concern for that. But if you're in for life after doing something like this, why do we care? I mean, I guess that's the question.
Well, I think the institution doesn't want it on them.
Liability.
You look at what happened after Epstein, and nobody wants to be in the position of the guard who didn't check, because then you're in big trouble. But
it's not so much about the well-being of the individual; it's about the liability of those who are in charge of maintaining their oxygen level that they're going to keep living.
Right.
When they package it together with the ultimatums like that, and you just said, well, we're going to take away your shoelaces, we're going to take away this, we're going to take away that. It makes life, probably even a little bit more miserable for them than they even thought. They thought they were going to get some leverage here. Does that change the weight of a threat like that when it comes prepackaged with, I'm going to hurt myself unless you do X?
I don't think it changes the weight of the threat. I think whenever there's an indication that somebody may be thinking of suicide or self-harm, you do the same procedure no matter what. But it doesn't mean that you give in to the demands being made. It doesn't mean you move them just because they want to be moved, or you give them the, the better movies or the computer or the whatever that they want because they're going to hurt themselves if they don't get it. It's like you don't give in to the demands. You just continue the program, but you make it so that they can't do that, so they can't hurt themselves.
What kind of disconnect do you think is going on here in his brain with where he is at? I mean, he's filing complaints because it's like the wrong type of banana that he's getting. He doesn't like the bananas. Like, be happy you're getting a banana in general and not just some sort of slop on a plate. That to me, it makes you wonder, like, what's going on back there? Does he really think he has these rights and these privileges and that he's entitled to this or that? Or is this just the world be damned at this point? It doesn't matter what people say or think. The more ruckus I make, the more attention I'm going to get. Or is it even from that perspective? On the outside, we're looking at this going, he's sure playing the system. He's getting all this attention because people are still talking about him. You think that's the goal? Or is this really infantile? Is this him just really acting like a toddler having a tantrum? The toddler's not necessarily thinking, oh, all these people are going to be talking about me. They're just my needs, me, want, me, need.
I think that the demands for special bananas or food or other kinds of things, I think that probably a couple things going on. One is his need to have some control in his life. And obviously control has been stripped away from him, other than he controls the fantasies that go on in his head and apparently the people he can write letters to. But by filing complaints or grievances all the time, it's like a desperate urge. I've got to have some control. I've got to have some control. And does it ever pay off? I don't know if he's getting his needs met in that way. But the other thing that popped into my head is this is a guy with OCD and had extreme requirements about what he would eat and how food was prepared. And OCD is a pretty tormenting kind of brain to have. And so I would imagine that has got to be pretty miserable when he's having to take the food that he's given and it's not quite right. So he may just be spinning out about that a lot of times and filing complaint after complaint.
Again, I don't want to sound like I'm defending him, but on a humanitarian level, God, I hate even saying this, but we don't want him to go crazy. I mean,
yes, we do.
I mean, but if he has OCD and this is like something that's making him, not quite right in the head, like it's just becoming an issue, don't we owe it to other humans to make them, I can't even say the words. Do you know where I'm going? Like, I mean, if he's bouncing off the walls because things aren't right, his shoes aren't lined up properly or whatever, and the OCD is just getting worse and worse, there needs to be some sort of remedy for that, whether it's medication or therapy or that kind of thing. I would think he'd be medicated at this point.
I nod my head at medication, and okay. I don't know if that is being done. It is very commonly done in prisons. Most people in prison are on antidepressants. I can't say most. Prisons, I have had contact with psychiatrists who work there. They said they had lots and lots of their people on antidepressants. Sure. So I can't speak to this specific institution. I don't know, but it would not surprise me. So
does it ever wear down someone, like this? I mean, I know obviously OCD, there's medications, there's all that. And, it's a very real disorder that people have. But if you are constantly met with, you have zero control of your life day to day, nothing is ever getting into the control category that you want it to be. After years, does it ever tamper down? Does that individual's brain ever get it of like this is never going to happen, so stop going crazy about it? Or does it escalate? Does it get worse? What happens when there really is no solution? Let's take medication out of it for a moment. Do they ever adjust?
I think it's possible over time that those kind of symptoms may actually diminish if it's not getting anywhere. In other words, if you complain 700 times about the wrong kind of banana, but you keep getting the same kind of banana over and over and over, then you may be able to flip the switch off that and move on to some other kind of fixation. You may start complaining about the water, or who knows. But yeah, it could. I think what you don't want to do, even with OCD, you don't want to cater to it. You don't want to say, oh, you didn't like this, so we're going to give you that. Well, now you don't like that, so we're going to give you that. That intensifies it. That makes it worse. So you don't want to take it in that direction.
To keep giving options to them. Stacy, what else are you seeing in the comments?
Lots of talk about what a job it would be to be a prison psychiatrist. I absolutely agree.
I actually know a few, and they like it. They like the work.
It's going to be fascinating.
It's well, and even then they say the problems are so obvious. It's nice and clear, and you know exactly what medications you can do, and there's a lot of containment. I mean, it's very predictable, and they get paid really well. I've never been working in an institution in that setting, but I know they make a lot of money and they seem to like it. So.
Gen Z says he knows that if they don't pay attention to his threats, that his family can come after the prison system. I imagine that's something that he learned along the way in his schooling about how the prison system works. I mean, I don't know specifically what he studied, but I imagine he should be somewhat familiar with this part of criminality.
I guess what can the family do? I mean, my son is saying that he's not getting this and he's threatening to hurt himself if he doesn't get a better banana, or people are taunting him. Yeah, go pound
I imagine
sand.
though, if he does unalive himself, they would be able to go after. Well,
would
maybe
they?
not.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Is that ever a thing?
I would think that they could. They could certainly try. I don't know that they'd have any success with it.
Try, yeah.
They could try.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. When you have people that are I mean, is there a profile of individuals who weaponize self-harm threats for control? I mean, are there specific types of folks who do this and others who don't? Or is this kind of like, well, you're in prison, this is now a lever pretty much everybody pulls at some time or another?
Oh, you know what I'm going to say. You know I'm going to say cluster B.
Yeah.
So, yes, you see it particularly psychopathic people, narcissistic people, borderline personality people are all very adept at manipulation and trying to gain power through whatever means they can. So yes, and these are folks that you would see in prison. So it's, as I say, Kohberger's not the first one. It's a fairly common theme.
It'd be interesting to be a psychologist in a prison system, because they're not out in any sort of ether where there's a lot of healthy brains around them. I mean that's does that make it easier? It's what we were talking about earlier. If you are a prison psychologist, I know you haven't been one, but I'm just curious, if that would make it easier, because it is rather predictable. Like, we know the environment you're going out into. Everybody's pretty much got a broken brain out here. And you're trying to work with that individual. Does that make it more difficult or less difficult to try and help somebody who is actively trying to do better, trying to manage themselves in a way that is not counterproductive?
I'll tell you what one friend who's a psychiatrist said to me in a prison, and she's worked in prisons for probably 25 years. And she said, I really prefer it, because I think she used the word asshole, but she said, my patients are all assholes, and I know it. And there's really very little I can do for them. They're not ever going to get out. They're not ever going to be normal. And I am just there to treat some of their symptoms. And so it's a very clear job in that way. So she's not going at home at night worrying about this family, dealing with more mundane problems, but maybe you have a suicidal teenager or you've got, domestic violence in the home. It's not messy like that.
Yeah.
It's like the guys are in these little cells and this is what I'm doing for them. And then at the end of the day, I'm done. And so it's a cleaner job for somebody that doesn't really want to do therapy. And they're not there because they think that this is going to transform anybody, because it's just not. Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's how she survives it.
It's more of a 9 to 5.
It's a 9 to 5. You show up, you do your job, you check the med status. Is somebody having a side effect? You need to change it. Okay, you change it. But there's no real deep human connecting going on, because it's just not the environment where that happens.
Interesting. That's a very interesting way of looking at it. Very fascinating.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.